Good afternoon. Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon to everyone and welcome to a special GLAAACC presentation. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with GLAAACC, it stands for the Greater Los Angeles African American Chamber of Commerce. And we're a business member organization dedicated to the growth and development of African American owned businesses in the greater LA area. My name is Angela Gibson Shaw, and I have the pleasure of serving as president of GLAAACC, along with our staff, Jessica O. Davis, Naomi Scott, and Chanel Frampton. We educate, equip, engage, and empower our members with programs and resources. Feel free to include your contact information in the chat box. Is that available for folks today, Jessica? Yeah, okay, great. And then we'll ask you to put your questions in the Q&A, and at the appropriate time after the presentations, we will go to the Q&A box. But I see a number of folks here, and so I guess we can do a little virtual networking, and let's see who's in the room, and other folks might want to meet you and do some business. And so let's just kind of start to get acquainted. So today we're going to meet with USC and talk about upcoming contracting opportunities. You know that USC is a beautiful gem in the middle of the urban Los Angeles area. But did you know that, you probably did, that USC is also a $1 billion economic impact to our economy? They have $1 billion impact to our economic economy in our city, and there are multi-billion dollars in procurement that they expend every year. So today we're going to meet with them and talk about upcoming contracting opportunities. We're going to hear from our friends about the opportunities at USC. Afterwards, we'll have time, we'll answer some questions, and then as we close, we'll tell you about some of GLAAACC's upcoming events. So let's get started and let's meet today's guests. I want to tell you a little bit about them, and then I will turn the program over to them. Let's first meet Allison. Hi, Allison, you can wave your hands. Allison is Executive Director of Facilities Planning and Management with USC, overseeing the delivery of hundreds of building projects each year at the University Park campus. Allison is a construction industry executive with more than 35 years of experience managing building programs for school districts, colleges, and universities. Her construction portfolio of completed work over her career is in excess of $2 billion. So she knows her stuff. Thank you, Allison. We'll hear from her shortly later. But first, I also would like to take an opportunity and introduce Effie Turnbull Sanders, who's the Vice President of Civic Engagement and Economic Partnerships. Effie is an attorney with over 2 decades of experience advancing opportunities for underserved communities. As USC's Vice President of Civic Engagement and Economic Partnerships, she leads university civic stewardship programs and directs economic inclusion and environmental sustainability initiatives. Welcome, Effie. And
Thank
so
you.
at this time, are folks putting information in the chat? Are y'all doing it? What's going on here? Anything in the Q&A? All right, well, let's get started. I hope to look for some communication from those of you out there. I know that you're out there. Okay, so we're going to turn this over to Effie. Effie, stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, President Gibson Shaw. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I'm really grateful that you would decide to spend your afternoon with us here. I am really excited to hear our presentation from my colleague, Allison Gibson. At USC, we are building out a shared vision for economic prosperity and economic inclusion. That means we are open for business. We want to do business with you. We want to give you the tools that are necessary to do business with USC. And we know that you are the backbone of our economy. You are the ones who are creating jobs. You are supporting families. You are sending students. Some of you may be even USC graduates, or you may have children who are attending or who have attended USC. And we want to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity who is qualified to do business with USC. And we want to make sure that everyone enjoys the economic prosperity of our region. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Ms. Allison Gibson, who will share this current opportunity with you. And as always, please stay in touch with us.
Thank you so much. And it is a pleasure to join everyone today. I want to first say thank you for for spending some time and learning about what we do at Facilities Planning and Management. We have a lot of work going on, but I wanted to give you an overview of who we are as a division at USC, and then what opportunities there are and how to make those opportunities a reality for you. So most people are familiar primarily with the main campus, the University Park campus, which we call UPC, and that's in the heart of LA. And includes our properties also include the Health Sciences campus, which is about 7 miles to the northeast. The USC Village, which is just north of the UPC campus, Wrigley, which is at Catalina Island, and many offsite locations. So we have about 415 buildings scattered throughout. But primarily our buildings are in the heart of LA and are governed by Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety, or for the hospital, HCI is the authority. We are a private institution, so we are not governed by public procurement requirements, but in many, many ways, we mirror public procurement processes and procedures. Our philosophy is best value. So we're not required to always take the lowest bid on something. If there are components of a project that don't necessarily lend themselves to the lowest bid, it might be a combination of skill and experience tied to a project. And finally, the infrastructure at USC is owned by USC. So all of the infrastructure in terms of electrical lines, heating and cooling lines, sewer lines, all of that in the perimeter, within the boundaries of the campus, USC owns that and maintains that. So the University Park campus is the one where I am working. We also maintain projects at the Coliseum, and then to the northeast is the Health Sciences campus, and there are many projects there as well. The structure of our department includes both the capital construction side, which is where I work, where most of our building projects come from, and they include everything from, most people think of USC and construction as new construction. We don't have a lot of new construction. As you know, the campus is landlocked. The vast majority of our projects that we do are modernization projects, interior renovation projects, preparation for, say, a new researcher coming to the university and needing a specific lab built out, along with historic preservation projects and seismic projects. And we do a lot of feasibility studies to see if something that is proposed to be done can be done. The other side of our department is facilities management services, and a lot of that is the engineering support, making sure that all the systems that we are putting into our buildings all speak to each other, the asset renewal, maintaining our properties, and then energy services, automation, operations, the cleaning of the campus, keeping our bathrooms operating properly, things of that nature. So our project development process, unlike a public institution, which publishes an annual budget with a master plan of how that money is going to be spent, we operate very differently in that we do not have a capital improvement program. Our funding is based on the requests that come from the various schools or auxiliaries or athletics or the provost's office saying, we need something to happen here. An example might be a particular building might decide they want to have access control on all the doors to their building because they are going to be adding several research projects, and they need to have after hours access to the building and need to know who's going to be there. So a project to come in and install access control on all the perimeter doors of the building would be something that we would do. Converting a space into a lactation room for a department that has many nursing mothers all at one time and they need a space for a lactation room. We would have a project that we would create a space for a lactation room for nursing mothers. So all of that depends on the needs of each of the different schools or departments reaching out to us and requesting a project. The funding comes from the revenue of those schools. So certain schools like the engineering school generate a lot of revenue for the university and for their department. From that revenue, they can choose to do renovation projects or build outs. There's also money that comes from donors, and donors typically identify what they want their money spent for, and that can generate a project. The asset renewal projects are funded by an annual fund that facilities has to maintain our properties. So a certain amount of money goes into holding to deal with the aging out of equipment in the particular building. And the timing of all these projects, we really, other than the ones that have the asset renewal projects, and we know the timing of those, all the other projects, we never know when those projects are coming. We like to say they fall out of the sky. So this is an example of the number and type of projects that we deal with on a regular basis. A lot of the projects are under $550,000. Or under $50,000. And we have a vast majority of projects that are in the, I'd say, $100,000 to $250,000 range. It's very, very common to have a lot of projects in that area. But we average about 400 to 425 projects at a time going on within our department. So a couple things I wanted to touch on related to the design, first of all, for architects and engineers. What are the key factors for success in doing work at USC? First and foremost is the expectation that our vendors are going to be familiar with our design standards. Those design standards are posted on our website. So if you're designing for a project, if you're selected to do a project for USC, you have to know what our design standards are and design accordingly. The key sections are related to restrooms, access control, HVAC, and doors and hardware. Those are really critical. Everybody is bound by those standards. So if there are any requests for deviations, they have to be for a very, very specific reason and have to be approved. Sustainability is key to our projects, and you'll see a lot of information on sustainability on the USC website. And commissioning is a component of almost all of our projects that we do. The performance essentials are really about having a group of designers working together, the AE team that has knowledge of our basis of design, of our design standards, and complying with that, and also designing to a specific budget. So when we set the budget for a project, we expect the design team to control scope creep and stay within the allotted budget. We have very fixed budgets. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's USC, they've got plenty of money. That's just really not true. And so budgets are everything. And then making sure that we have completed documents to go out to bid with, so that the work is done in its entirety and has received the approvals of the agencies for, like LADBS, for approval of the work. And then when managing the project, being clear in the scope of work, collaborating with your internal project management team. Anything on the exterior of a building, the university architect has to approve, and that's really critical. And a lot of times it requires board approval if it's a major project. And then during the course of construction, responding promptly to RFIs, change order requests, review, pay application review, and doing a thorough and complete punch list at substantial completion. So some lessons learned. We have lists of approved sub-consultants. Engineering firms have gone through an RFQ process. I'll talk about that a little later. but making sure as an architect leading a team that you are using approved sub-consultants as part of your design team, and following the design standards as you go through the process. Excuse me, outdated as-built is really kind of a expected condition at a university as old as ours. Cannot rely solely on the as-built to do a design project. You have to take some time, go to the job site, see what's there. We try to keep everything up to speed with our as-built drawings for projects that are completed in a building, but it's impossible with the campus as large as ours to have captured everything. So we need designers to make sure they go to the site and physically see the space they're going to be working in. Our infrastructure needs to be part of the thought process in a design solution, because we have to maintain that and how the impacts the entire landscaping around a project. We don't cut down trees, for example, just randomly. It's a big process with our arborists before any trees come down. And then the expectation is that, you know, the design that's bid is going to stay within that budget. So if RFI responses or submittal responses change the cost of a project, that ends up running projects out of budget. So our expectation is that that process will keep the project within budget as we go forward. Our expectations on the construction side. Our bid phase, we want to make sure that everyone is reading the bid documents, which is important. One thing that we find is the list of approved subcontractors that can be used is often not read until the last minute, or read at all, and then people are submitted that are not pre-qualified and a contractor is found non-compliant. We want you to communicate with us during the bid process. So if you have any questions, raise those questions during that RFI period, and make sure that we're understanding if you see that there's a conflict, you're not sure what to do. We build projects as either stipulated sum or lump sum bids. So we don't have post-bid modifications. We also have GMP projects, and some of those include pre-construction, some of them don't, most of them do. We want you to include allowances for your parking and other expenses. We don't entertain those after the fact, so that's part of your bid. If you have questions on that during the bid process, make sure to ask. The contract and award, submitting a detailed schedule of value is really critical. The schedule of values that's attached to your contract. Labor rates have to be verified and approved by our estimating department. You attach a schedule showing your submittals and your full baseline schedule to the contract. And insurance documentation is usually the thing that holds up getting an award done. So you want to get your certificates of insurance ready to go, making sure that you're familiar with our contract and our insurance, and I'll touch on that in a minute. The schedule needs to be a full baseline schedule with all the key milestones, shutdowns, long lead items, everything submitted to us within 10 days on GMP projects. The lump sum projects, it comes with the bid. GMPs, you have 10 days. And updated schedules are submitted with change order impacts and are required as part of the payment application process. Every time you submit a bill, every month you submit an updated schedule. Making sure that there's time for the commissioning processes, which should be identified, the closeout process, and then after the completion of the job, making sure that everything is wrapped up in that final schedule with the final pay application. During construction at the job site, one of the key things to know is that we monitor all of the bits and pieces of a project with our e-builder system, which is our project management information system. We call it the electronic file cabinet. Information goes in, comes out from the same electronic space. So everybody on the team has access to the project documentation. So RFIs, change order proposals, submittals, pay applications, schedule updates, daily reports, everything that goes on through a project goes into our e-builder system. So you want to make sure that you take the time to explore the e-builder system. If you're awarded a job, get familiar with it. Our team of project engineers will help your team get set up. You definitely don't want to switch out personnel. If we've selected you and you've identified someone as your key person, the key people are often written into the contract. And if you pull them off, it'll be a breach of contract. But our expectation is that once someone is assigned to the project, they will stay with the project. There'll be commissioning vendors and other vendors on site, oftentimes doing different work that the university procures directly. And so you want to make sure to accommodate them. Communication is primarily through RFIs. There are emails that go back and forth, but no decisions are communicated through email because they're not tracked within the e-builder system. So an RFI response must be accounted for within the e-builder system. All submittals have to have their specification information included, and those are tracked through e-builder, and we coordinate shutdowns and lien releases through there. And finally, on closeout, we track everything, including the red line drawings, final inspections, punch list work, O&M manuals, training, and final lien releases through e-builder. Lessons learned for contractors. The biggest lesson for working at USC, the UPC campus more so than the health science campus. We are an active college campus, which means we have a lot of people walking around with their head down and a phone in front of them. So your typical signage you would put up around an area where you're working isn't sufficient. You have to be extra special attention to the fact that people will oftentimes walk through areas that they're not supposed to. So you need to have flag people ready to go. At the HSC campus, there are patients that require access to buildings, lay down work, lay down areas and site access work. You need to make sure that those areas are completely protected and sectioned off. Crane work is only done during certain hours. Cranes are really challenging to manage within our space. I mentioned our other vendors earlier. We have audio visual, voice and data, furniture, moving companies, the commissioning people, lab equipment. A lot of these things have are under contract directly with the university. And so we coordinate that specifically with the contractors. We'll let you know when we have somebody who's going to be coming on site. Hot work is really critical. Our people have to be notified well in advance if there's going to be any hot work going on the site. There are a lot of safety precautions that have to be in place. We've had flying embers or embers that drop through the floor down to a floor below. We had a fire start that way before. It's really critical that people be extra careful with hot work. All the damages that come from that, the contractor has to bear the cost of that, and it can be a lot of money. Whatever you do, don't set off the fire alarm system. We say it all the time. Don't set off the fire alarm system. It could destroy a professor's research, lifetime research, just by something simple, a simple mistake on a construction project. And finally, and this applies to the design firms as well, a history of project success will lead you to repeat business. If you do a good job, we'll want you to come back. If you don't do a good job, we're not going to spend a lot of time with you. We're just going to go to the next because there's a lot of options for us. So you don't want to send inexperienced people. You want to end as strong as you start. So start off, doing a great job and keep it up. Change orders. Well, if we see a contractor attempting to price gouge on a change order, that word spreads quickly in our office, and you won't get other work. What we do on the campus is to serve the campus. So there are going to be times when schedule items need to work around what's happening on the campus. We will let you know what those dates are, but a perfect example is in April, we had the Festival of Books. There's a whole weekend when the whole campus is taken over with the Festival of Books, and then leading up to the Festival of Books, there's a lot of things moving onto the campus to accommodate that, the booths, the tables, the whole nine. So we'll let you know what days those are. Graduation just took place. We have a mandatory no construction work on site for the 3 days leading up to graduation ceremonies. There are ceremonies all over the campus, and we need to accommodate setting up the chairs, the stages, all of that during those 3 days. So we'll definitely make all of our contractors aware of when those dates are. Uh-oh, why is my not moving? There we go. There we go. All right, so let me take you through our selection process. For architects and engineers, we have an RFQ that is issued that will allow you to submit your qualifications to start the pre-qualification process. Note to everyone, we have RFQs going out June 1st. I believe we are settled on June 1st, but there's June RFQ going out for architects, engineers, and contractors, and there'll be contact information at the end where you can get access to that. We always get asked the question if we also do pre-qualification for subcontractors. We do not. Do we do a pre-qualification or selection for PMCM firms? We do not. We have a whole team of PMCMs. There are times we might need some supplemental services, but those are on an as-needed basis. There's not a formal RFQ process like we're doing here that's on a regular basis. So when that RFQ goes out and it's requesting qualifications, it will detail what needs to be submitted. You will want to look for examples of your work in the various areas that you have experience. You're going to want to give an idea of the size of projects that that you've worked with and are comfortable with, and the personnel that were involved in those projects, the resumes and information about your firm. All of that will be detailed in the RFQ, including some specific questions that you'll want to respond to. Those responses go into a panel, and a panel reviews all of those and scores those to determine whether a firm is going to go into our pre-qualification pool. At that level of approval, it can either go directly to the approved list, or there might be an interview if there's some questions about the experience of someone of the firm or some individuals. There might be an interview, and or if there's kind of a split decision between the panel. And then after that process is completed, then there's an approval to go on the pre-qualified list. From that point, each project manager makes a selection of vendors for their individual projects based on what you've said in your pre-qualification package. So if you say, we have extensive experience in doing dry labs, and our dry lab experience is at the following places, and here's the most relevant projects, and they're all recent, and you have good outcomes, that should be in your RFQ. So a project manager who's working on a dry lab project is going to look to all of the pre-qualification packages that indicated that they have dry lab experience. So they're going to cull the list down to that, and then they're going to read through each of the RFQ responses to find which of the firms they want to solicit proposals from, and they will solicit multiple proposals. Once they solicit proposals, they're going to review the proposals. They might do an interview, and from that, they're going to select a firm to work with, and then a contract is awarded. The master service agreement is really critical. We always send out the master agreement with the RFQ. You need to make sure that you can comply with all the terms and conditions of the master agreement, because we do not change the agreement. The same holds true for the construction side. We have a very specific contract. We do not change the contract. So make sure that you read through this. If you have an attorney you work with, have them go through it with you in case there's any questions. Once there's a master agreement in place, we issue task orders or service orders off of that agreement for each project that you're assigned. And it's specific to that particular proposal, the hourly rates that are in there, the personnel that are identified, and a certificate of insurance for that project. So some tips for architects. You want to make sure that the proposal that you submit to us in response to a reach out after you've been pre-qualified and a project manager reaches out, you do not want to submit a proposal that is in conflict with the master agreement, because then you won't be considered. Your sub-consultants have to be on the approved list prior to submittal of a proposal for a particular project. If you're not sure, if you have in mind, particular engineers that you want to work with and you're not sure, contact your PM and ask them, are these firms pre-approved to do work at USC? Highlight anything in your proposal that differs from the master agreement. Maybe it's something minor. It's not truly a conflict, but it's a slight variance from something. Make sure you highlight that, because that would be an area that we would want to talk to you about to say yes or no, we can do that. But if you deviate in the proposal from the master agreement, the project manager has to approve that. And you're going to break out your design, your fee by design phase. So if it's a feasibility study, it'll just be a summary of the study. And if there are milestones for delivery within the feasibility study, you'll know that on the request for proposal. You break it out that way. If it's a straight design project, you'll have the fee at schematic design, one at design development, one at construction documents, etc., throughout the course of the project. And plan check fees are separate from your reimbursables. So you just want to know that we'll pay those directly. They're not in your fee. The contractor approval process is almost identical to what I mentioned for the architects. So you're going to respond to an RFQ. There's a checklist and a questionnaire that goes with the contractor's pre-qualification that's really specific, and it talks a little bit about your licensing, the people the license is under, some information specific to the construction industry. And again, there'll be a panel review. The approval, the first level approval, sometimes there'll be an interview, and if it gets past that point, it goes to the approved list. During the identification of a project manager will go to the RFQs and look at the potential bidders for the type of project. They will be soliciting multiple proposals from bidders, usually between 3 and 6, depending on the project, a review of the bids, and then a selection and award process. On a GMP or design build projects, very similar, selection of potential bidders. The solicitation of proposals is almost always an interview on projects that are GMP or design build, because they're typically bigger. And then the selection is based on best value. The contractor's form of agreement. The key things to note among this, really make sure that you have read through the contract and understand what's required, making sure that you are timely in getting your certificate of insurance in, for the award, noting any exclusions or clarifications. if a proposal asks for alternate pricing, make sure that you give alternate pricing. Don't skip it. So you want to answer everything, so you make sure that your bid is in compliance. And then you'll have to include your approved hourly rates. So tips for contractors. The performance is again governed by the master agreement. Subcontractors have to be on the approved vendor list. For each bid that we do for subcontractors, if there is a specific driver behind subcontractors, we will tell you. So if on project A, you got a list that says you can use any of the subcontractors on this list, and there's 40, like the whole list of vendors, you're good to go, you can do that. That list is for that project. If on project B, you go in and they have attached a shorter list and saying, these are the only MEP subcontractors you can use. These are the only, technology contractors you can use. And if you go to the old list and just pick somebody from the old list, and you have somebody who's not on the specific list for this project, you are non-responsive. So you want to use the subcontractor list for the project that you are bidding. Don't use old lists. Indicating any exclusions, clarifications, be prepared to give your detailed schedule showing the critical path, the schedule of values with cost breakdown included with it, and again, the certificate of insurance. So where do you go to become a vendor with USC? The first thing that you want to do is go to the supplier portal and read through the information for USC Business Services. It has all the details about becoming a supplier or a vendor with USC. We want to make sure you're understanding what the requirements are of the university as a whole, and that's where all of that can be found. The criteria for becoming a vendor are included there. One of the criteria, for example, is, you can't be a brand new business. If you started your business 6 months ago and you want to, come on board and be a contractor, it's not going to get approved. You have to have an established track record and be an established business in order to be able to be a vendor within USC. And then finally, here are some resources for information that you'll need. The purchasing contact is Peniel Park. The design standards are posted on our website, and you can find that under our standards. And then the suppliers portal is also listed there. I also want to share the contact information for our the person who's going to be distributing the I want to call it the RFQ. And so that person, I will give that on the screen so that you have that, because that's going to be really important, is to be able to get that information as well. And while we're taking Q&A, I'll take care of getting that information ready to go. And that's everything. You're on mute. There you go.
Allison. Yes, thank you for that great information about how to get started to do business with USC. That was very thorough and very helpful. And I hope that the attendees here were able to understand the pathway to begin to do business with USC. Saw a couple of people after we got our chat line enabled. Let's see, the question that I have here, thank you for your time today, Allison. Are there any specific requirements for owners representative project management services?
So I touched on that, and I mentioned that we don't typically hire project owners rep services because we have a whole staff of people who do that.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good. And then I saw a question in the chat room. Is there any opportunities for cleanup and maintenance services for the USC campuses?
So there is a contract in place with Aramark, I believe, who does the bulk of our work right now. I don't know if they are the only vendor, however, that does that. And I'm trying to think who the best person would be to find out. Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson is the head of our operations side, and he could probably be the best person for that. If whoever sent that question, I'll try to get follow-up information for them. But as far as I know, that's the only company that's doing that work for us right now.
Okay, so we see who asked that question. We'll make sure we get an answer for them. Another
Yes.
question we have is, what process do you have for innovative solutions that are not part of an RFP?
I'm not really sure what that question means.
Okay, even if you want to type some more information there to help her better understand that, or we'll even get some more information from Eben to send to you, Allison, and get that question answered. Okay, I think that's it. Jessica, did you see anything else?
Nope, those are all the questions.
Okay, so before we turn it over again, thank you, Allison and Effie. And so before we conclude our programming with our upcoming announcements, Effie, Allison, did you want to make any final commentary?
The only thing that I have is I wanted to make sure that I give everybody the contact person that we have at USC to get the RFQ. So before we sign off, I just want to check this person's email.
Okay, put that in the chat for Q&A or so.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop it back up. Let me see.
Okay, nothing like a contact name. We'll be here. We won't leave till we get it there.
There you go. What I'll do, I'm gonna I'll share my screen again on that slide. So this contact right here is the name everybody wants. So Ian Williams, she's the main contact to be on the RFQ mailing list. And her email is iannwill@usc.edu.
All righty, very good. And Teresa, we will find the maintenance services and Eric Johnson's contact information and get that over to you. Okay, very good. All righty. With that being said, we'll now turn the programming over to Chanel Frampton, who's our Director of Programs, to talk about upcoming events.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Allison and Effie, for this amazing webinar. I hope everyone took notes and follow up with this awesome opportunity. This afternoon's webinar is an example of GLAAACC's top-tier workshops that we offer. If you're not already a member, I encourage each and every one of you on this Zoom to sign up. We have a number of value-added programs that will take your business to the next level. On the screen, please scan the QR code to get our calendar where you can register for our upcoming events. Here listed are 3 events coming up this month. On Thursday, June 15th, GLAAACC will be at the City Club with the Latino Business Chamber and the Asian Business Association for a Chairman's Happy Hour. This is a multi-chamber member-only event. Next, we have the Ed Fund Scholarship Reception on Wednesday, June 21st at the Proud Bird at 5 p.m. GLAAACC is a chamber of commerce, but we're also a 501c3 where we offer scholarships to students attending Jordan, Washington Prep, Dorsey, Crenshaw, and Hamilton High School. If you go on the website, you're able to donate to the scholarship program. And if anyone is interested in attending, please reach out to me for ticket information via email, chanel@glaac.org. My information is also in the chat. Last but not least, GLAAACC has a member meetup scheduled on Tuesday, June 27th at 4 p.m. Members are able to network with each other and share with the group their business and any upcoming projects. Thank you all again for attending. Thank you to USC and the GLAAACC staff. And this concludes our webinar today. Have a lovely afternoon.
All righty, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for attending. And I saw Eric Johnson's, did I see some additional information in the chat? Okay, oh, I am, okay. We'll get that information out to everyone and a recording of this event. So thank you guys and have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.